Enough said, let's get into the video. So in today's video, I'm gonna unbox this, test it out, see what the positives and what the negatives are about this Tamron much anticipated lens. This is the Tamron 18-300. Now I'm super excited for this lens. One, because of the range on this body is crazy. And two, because it's a new lens by Tamron and I love Tamron lenses. Now, this lens is perfect for someone who's getting into videography or for someone who's experienced and doesn't want to spend that much money on a lens. You don't want to be broke. You want to have money left over for accessories or maybe an editing kit or some software. So this lens coming in at $699, $599 with the educator's discount or student's discount is, you can't beat it. If you want 18-300 millimeters, that's pretty much wide all the way down to super telephoto range there. This is for your sports photographer. This is for someone who is looking to do as much as they can with their lens with as little as much money. So as this lens goes out further and further from 70 to 100 to 200 to even 300, the f-stop goes up, which makes your image a little bit darker unless you turn up the ISO. Now, that can hurt for inexperienced photographers and inexperienced videographers, but for those with patience, those willing to learn the technology, you will flourish with this Tamron lens. Now, you can do from landscape, keep it super wide out here, or get really tight on your subject and bring out that background with the 300. This lens is going to be amazing. I want you guys to check out some of the photos that I got with this lens right off the rip. So guys, now you're looking at the Tamron 18-300 now. Same settings as before. ISO a little bit higher because the f-stop couldn't go down to 2.8, so it's at f4. So it kind of looks the same. I'm gonna do a quick side-by-side comparison right now so that you guys can see that. And I'll just, flex the lens. Some of my biggest positives of this lens is the portability. It's very small. I mean, even though it's a double barrel down at 300, it's very small and it has a lock button here on the side. So it locks at 18, making it just as big as the 17-70 if you already had that lens. Now, another positive is that it's cheap. So if you're looking to do a lot with a little, Tamron and this 18-30 is the way to go. On another note, the images at all focal lengths are super sharp, regardless of a little bit of vignetting when you get to 100, 200, and 300. So this lens by Tamron feels expensive. It feels like, a Sony G Master sometimes, dare I say. But you look more professional with this lens. Also, it's made out of the same material as a Tamron 17-70. It's like this hard plastic material with a double barrel here, so you can tell that it'll hold up over time. If it's rustling around in your bag, just make sure that it's covered up because you don't want to scratch that lens. It's a 67mm thread on the top here, so the same lens attachments that you're putting on your other Tamron lenses or maybe your Sigma lenses can fit on top of this Tamron 18-300. I recommend getting a variable ND that you can change as you start to zoom out, because what you're gonna see is that the f-stop goes up. So what's gonna happen is your shot might get a little darker, so you should just readjust by turning your ND filter to the right. One of the biggest positives of the Tamron ecosystem is just this. The autofocus is super, super sharp. And you know what? People complain about that when they want to get super cinematic shots, but if you put it in slow-mo, you can slow down that focusing, okay? So if you're shooting in video mode right now, it's gonna happen super fast, super quick, but I love that about Tamron's images. A little bit of vignetting here on the corners if you guys see, which means blackening of the image, losing of a little bit of detail, but other than that, we're shooting at around, I think 30 millimeters right now, give or take, because you really can't tell exactly what you're at on there because it goes from like 35 to 70, no, 35 to 50 to 70 to 100 to 200 to 300. So very quick jumps on the Tamron lens. So another thing that this lens has that's awesome is this. Look at that. I'm only like a 1/4 inch away from the lens. As you can see here, it's super sharp. That is one major positive of this Tamron 18-300, and I'm glad they added that in there. That's great for leaf photography, foliage, ring photography if you're a wedding videographer, if you're looking to get very close-ups on very detailed images. You literally could just bring your lens up super close and you get the image just like that. Here it is at about 70 millimeters. Now the autofocus is still amazing, but now you notice that the f-stop goes to 4.5 to 5, and look. You still get that quick focus to the 1/4, even though it's only a 1/4 inch to less. Oh God, I almost fell in the studio. So now it's at around 200. I don't know that I'm ever gonna need this inside the studio, but I definitely will use this. Can't even see my face. Whoa, I look tired. My only complaints about this lens is that at 300, it's really hard to put on a gimbal, so because of the double barrel that you guys see there. Another complaint about this lens could be that it's not that constant aperture, okay? It goes from 3.5 all the way to 6.3, so you gotta crank the ISO and get a little bit more grain in your images as you zoom in. But to be honest, if this lens had a consistent f-stop, it would be super heavy. Like, it would be so thick and so much more money than what it is. At $599 or $699 to get this amount of range and only like 2 f-stops is crazy. You're not even moving that high or low on the depth of field there. However, those are my complaints. So after I've had some time to actually work with this lens, maybe 2-3 weeks, I'm gonna come out with a much more detailed review. Like the 17-70, I shot with it for a considerable amount of time, and this lens held up a year and change. It's still holding up. It's the best piece of glass that I've ever bought for the Sony ecosystem. And honestly, I want to do you guys justice for anyone trying to make that same decision that I made, you know, to not go for Sony G Masters and go for the Tamron, because you really can't beat it. So again, Tamron, thank you for believing in me. I'm going to focus on the future. Love your lenses. It's your boy Kip Jackson. Start somewhere. Peace. Honestly, guys, I still can't believe this 1/4 thing. Like, what? That Tamron-ness, man, that is crazy. I think I'm gonna start that Tamron-ness. Is that in the book? By book, I mean dictionary. I don't think so. So the studio is coming along, and I really hope you guys like it. Working on the lights, working on that right there, trying to maybe hang that above my head. And I think I'm gonna paint this background black, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe I'll get a play button before this is all said and done. Maybe.